So if I'm going to look at plants as medicine, I like this eat the rainbow. I'm going to put in there second, like eat the plants that have a lot of protein.
Yes.
Because I still believe we need more protein.
I agree.
But I don't believe you have to get it all from meat. I think if you choose, I told you about Stacey Sims because she is considered right now one of the top exercise physiologists and nutritional scientists for menopausal women.
Amazing.
Beautiful heart. I brought her on this podcast and she is plant-based. And it rocked she is an extreme athlete, like menopausal woman, rocked my world.
Amazing.
So I then, out of that conversation, started to look at all the amino acid profile of plants. And so I would put the second component to that is make sure if you're going with a plant forward diet or a plant-based diet that you're getting the protein rich plants. Okay. Then the third category that I would look at are the plants that feed the microbiome.
Yeah.
Now, all plants feed the microbiome, but talk a little bit about, are there some plants that you like to use that feed the microbiome more than others? And then,
the treatments of those foods. We talk a lot about probiotics and about pickling and about fermenting and how those techniques can just make your body so happy and really support that digestion system. And it's so much easier than people think, and it goes way beyond. I mean, people, when you think about that, think about yogurt, pickles, and sauerkraut. And there's just a whole world out there that is not those three things. Yeah. So I do talk about that a lot.
Yeah. So you're focused on when you ferment these foods, and you're doing some cool stuff on your Instagram, like fermenting strawberries and grapes.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my God, I didn't ever think you could ferment fruit. I hadn't even thought about it.
It's so cool. It's delicious. But so that's been my mindset as a chef and as a chef that didn't go to culinary school, is that I've studied these techniques and how people cook food all over the world. And then I've taken those techniques and applied them to plants and vegetables. So when I think about, okay, well, what do I want to pickle and what do I like to pickle? And then it's like, but what else?
Yeah.
What else could I do? And then I just started throwing all these random ingredients and pickling solutions and liquids and seeing what happened. And a lot of them are really good and really cool.
So I'll tell you my full transparency. My number one concern with fermenting things at home is that I will create some horrible bacteria and make myself sick. Is that possible?
Look, anything is possible. But I always say to use your nose. Your nose is a very underused sense. And if you open something that smells really bad, that's your brain and your body telling you, don't eat that.
Okay.
And so if you are fermenting foods and it's all working, like take a little tiny taste or take a smell and just see where it's at. But it is pretty easy. And there are so many resources now for doing it. Like you said, I'm sharing a lot about that right now. So there's places that you can go and resources and people that you can ask.
Okay. And then that leads me to like and this is the way my brain likes to chunk things down, because I'm always like absorbing so much information. And then I'm like, what do I do with all this information? So this whole idea around plant-based living, I'm like, there's so much here to unpack. How do we make this systematic for people who are like, well, I want to live a more plant-rich life. How do I do that? So if we're looking at the colors of the rainbow, we're looking at protein, we're looking at fermentation, those being some really good steps. What is it? Does it matter if I cook it, have it raw? What happens if I microwave it? Like, can you talk a little bit about that process? Because I've watched a lot of people. I remember this in my practice all the time. People would be like, I'm finally eating more vegetables. You'd be so proud of me. Every night I put broccoli in the microwave. And when I ask what they're doing, they're putting plastic saran wrap over the top. I'm like, no, wait. We need to back up a step here. Talk about that.
Well, first of all, that broccoli will not taste good.
No.
Don't do that to broccoli.
I know, but
don't do it wrong like that.
No, but here's the thing about taste buds. If the further down the rabbit hole of horrible eating you go, the less in touch you are with your taste buds.
You know what's really interesting to me is that that's the first thing that people say to me when they start eating more plant-based is that, oh my gosh, my taste buds are changing. Everything tastes better and more vibrant, and I have to use less salt and this and that. And I'm like, yeah. It's like you're giving your taste buds a break.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they get to enjoy all of this stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's very cool. Okay. And so then, yes, when you're cooking plants, it does make a difference.
Okay. Yeah. What's going to hold the most nutrients of all the cooking?
Roasting.
Roasting. More than raw?
Well, sorry. Cooking. We're holding nutrients. Cooking.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional chef. I forget the nuance. Yeah, you have your lens is much wider.
Yeah, when you say cooking, I think about heating.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about raw food, it's preparing and not cooking.
Right.
And yes, whole raw foods do contain the ultimate amount of nutrients for most of them.
Okay.
Some of them, like we just mentioned, tomatoes, the amount of lycopene in a tomato actually is more when you cook it than when you eat it raw, which is so interesting. And then a lot of people have difficulty digesting seeds from raw foods. So tomato seeds, cucumber seeds, stuff like that. And so it really just listening to your own body.
Yeah.
If you can digest some things raw, eat those things raw. But if you eat something raw and you're like, not really for me, then cook it or don't eat it at all. That's kind of the beauty of having over 23,000 plants to eat. You don't have to eat and like all of them.
That's amazing.
You can just find what you like and that's what works.
Yeah, and go to the next thing.
Go to the next thing, you know?
So raw would be the most nutrient dense.
For the majority of plants, yes.
Okay. With a few exceptions like tomatoes, that was really interesting. My brain also thinks in books.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, now there's a book where you like take all the foods and you're like, these foods, you get the most nutrient power if you eat them raw. These foods, you get the most if you roast them.
Well, maybe we should write that.
I know, but the research on that book would be insane.
It would be insane.
But it would be so fun.
It would
know
be really
that
fun.
Information.
You'd get to eat a lot.
You'd get to eat a ton.
I would cook a lot. You would eat a lot.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well, as long as it was plants, I think I would be okay. So, okay, now talk to me though. Let's go back to the roasted. So of all the cooking, you're saying roasted is the best.
I think so because I think it really seals in the nutrients.
Okay.
Sauteing is probably there too.
I was wondering about that.
But then when you do something like steam, like if you like a softer vegetable, some people do. I like my vegetables still very crunchy.
Yeah.
But if you like a softer vegetable, and I know there's a lot of older people, when I was cooking for my grandparents, they needed everything softer. Yeah. But all of those nutrients, because water is a flavor conductor, get leached into the water. Yeah. Don't throw that water away.
Yes.
Use that water for something else. Use it for cooking. Drink it like a tea. You can put it in your smoothies. There's so many things. Anything that you would do with water, do with that cooking liquid.
Yeah. I really got a hold of in the last couple of days hanging out with you. I am definitely been throwing the water away. I'm not going to lie. And but I was been like, what am I going to do with that? I can see the tinge of color change in the water when I like steam vegetables or boil vegetables in there. But I'm like, what am I going to do with that? Mm-hmm. And I never thought to actually put it in a jar and then put it into a smoothie once I make a smoothie.
Yeah. Or the base of a broth or
soup of some kind.
Mm-hmm. You could just throw it in an ice cube tray, freeze it, and then pop it out, use it however you want.
That's such a brilliant idea. So then if I roast it in the oven, do I need to put some oil over the top?
Yeah.
It would be helpful.
For the most part, it would be helpful. And it gives it that nice like browning color. And
right. So it gives it a little bit of a crunch to it. That can be nice.